Would you rather get $100 or 100 lottery tickets?
I'm going 100 lottery tickets.
That is totally like our family in you because I also am going for 100 lottery tickets. I want to try and win that big prize 100 times over.
Yeah.
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 Audio.
Welcome to Second Saturday, the podcast where every Sunday feels like a Saturday.
This is episode 27 and I'm Ainsley.
And this is Jen.
And today we're going to do another Lodge Life deep dive, talking about getting a little more like real life with it. Turnover
Yeah.
days, changeover days when guests go to and from. So
Yeah.
see all the ins and outs of that side of it.
We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly with turnover
Yep.
days. So we'll talk a little bit more about lodge life because it's always interesting to talk that. It's kind of fun to bring up those memories, good, bad, and ugly, because it's part of us. So I love it.
Yeah.
But first, would you rather, Ainsley? You would rather get 100 lottery tickets? I don't blame you.
I mean, even if I didn't win $100 on 100 lottery tickets, it's still 100 pieces of fun.
That's a great way to explain it. It's 100 pieces of fun. I love
Yeah.
that. That's
So like
perfect.
I would rather like if I get $100 or I don't get $100, it's really not going to make or break anything for me. So why not
True.
have 100 chances at winning a bunch of
Right?
money and have fun doing it with like that anticipation of like, oh, then just here's $100 bill. You
I
know?
couldn't agree more. I'm the exact same way. I would rather have the amount of fun that I'm going to have with just, figuring out 100 lottery tickets and seeing if I win versus getting that $100 cash,
Yeah.
whatever. For our wedding, when we got married, our little party favor to everybody was we actually bought everybody a $1 lottery ticket for that night. So with the hopes that someone would win big, maybe share
And
it
then
with
give you
us.
some money.
Give
Yeah.
us some money. I think the most somebody ever won was like maybe $5 or $10. But it was kind of fun just to give out a little lottery ticket for that night and see versus like, I don't know, whatever. What do you normally give out at a wedding? Little
I don't know.
bubbles or piece of, I don't know, wedding cake. I don't know. But anyways, that was the decision that we did. And it was just so much fun. Plus, the odd time when I do buy a lottery ticket, your dad and I like to sit there for, the day before or whatever, and we will totally dream up what we're going to do with that money. And that just even that part is just so much fun to try and figure out what we're going to do if we ever won the major
Yeah.
lottery. And then of course we check our ticket and it's a, no win, please play
Play
again.
again.
But you know what? It's really fun. We always have a good laugh about what we would do with it. And the funny part is as many times as we have done that, what we would do with the money seems to change every time.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah, like we don't settle on the same like ideas of what we would do with the money every time we win it, which you'd think,
I've
come on,
never
no,
thought about what I would do if I won a bunch of money. I'd probably save it to try and buy a house eventually because
sure.
trying to buy a house is so difficult around here. But that's probably what that would go to.
Right. Yeah, I agree. So yeah, it's kind of fun to kind of just, think about what you would do if you won the great big lottery, be a big lottery winner. So we're throwing it out
Winner,
to you.
winner.
Would you rather get $100 or 100 lottery tickets? So put it in the comments. Let us know. Lottery is always fun to think about, but hey, $100 in your hand, nothing
That's
wrong with that
true.
too.
I mean, I'll take
Just
either.
I'll take either too. Really, I would. But I guess if push came to shove, I'd want the lottery tickets
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. Weather report, Ainsley.
Weather report. It has been spurring in the air over here.
Really?
It has rained all day today. So like kind of off and on, but like this morning I went to work, rain,
Oh,
and more rain, which is great because it's melting all our snow. And yesterday I think we were up to 8 degrees.
no way.
So it has
Rude.
been, even though it's been gloomy for the last couple days, I'm happy for the rain because it's getting rid of the snow and it's been very warm. So
Yeah.
I'll take what I
cleaning
can
up the
get.
muck. I'd like to say that I'd like to see rain, but I don't know if I'm ready for rain right yet.
Yeah.
Well, there you go. You're definitely into spring now. We are still sitting hovering between, I think, a high today is supposed to be about -7 and the low is -19, which isn't horrible
No, that's
for
pretty
this
good.
time of year. I mean, even with that low of -19, you're still feeling and you're like you're in the -20s, but it's definitely there's a difference. I only have to start my car now, pre-start it for about 10 minutes versus like the
Ooh,
30 or 30 plus
she's
minutes.
moving
So
up in the
that's
world.
moving up in the world, right? So that's quite nice. And it's just a little bit easier to get the dog out for a walk or a run. So I really don't mind it that much. Plus, we're getting longer daylight, so I'll take that too.
Well, that's good.
I mean, hey, we definitely the daylight savings change just happened today. So we're gonna have an even longer
What?
daylight tonight.
I
Isn't
forgot.
that nice?
I
I'll take
forgot
the
that's
only
a
thing I
thing.
don't like about that is that then in the mornings when I go to work tomorrow morning, it's gonna be darker again, but listen, if we're getting
Oh,
longer nights, I can
that's
handle it.
okay.
I
It
can handle
means
it.
it means we're getting into warmer weather.
We are getting into warmer weather, thank goodness. Oh, this has been a long, long, long winter.
Long
Yeah, and maybe I'm just
winter,
getting
yeah,
less
long.
tolerant of them. I winters, like, I don't mind them, but this time I'm like, "Okay, come on. Hard no. Come on.
I thought you were saying you were getting less tall. I was like, are you shrinking?
I probably am shrinking too. Um, just
Oh,
getting another year
goodness.
older, I'm probably
Yep.
shrinking another little bit.
Shrinking another inch down.
So yeah, I'm getting less tall and less tolerant of winter.
Yes.
That's my
Yes,
story.
yes, yes.
Sticking to it.
Sticking to it.
Okay, so before we talk about Lodge Life, I wanted to just touch on the Oscars, which happened last Sunday. Did you watch them?
I did not. I was
Okay.
busy doing work, unfortunately. I had other things I had to get done. I did like hear a lot about it and read a lot about them. I do know that like the film that kind of like swept the Oscars
Okay.
um was like I'd never really heard of it, but it was an indie film and those very
Oh.
rarely like not only
Ooh.
win a lot of Oscars but like
Yeah.
sweep the Oscars. So it's always good to like hear that an indie film has kind of taken over.
Well, it
So,
gives you hope in the
yeah,
film industry,
it
right? I
does.
mean, you just automatically assume that those big movie production companies are going to take it every time. So that kind of gives you a little faith. And you know what? I think that pattern kind of flowed through. I only watched just a short, brief amount of it because I feel like there was a hockey game or something that was apparently more important um, that
Well,
night. Something was.
these shows are just so long. Like, there's so
Yeah.
many commercial breaks to do this, and that, and the other thing. Like, it's just
Yeah.
it gets so dragged out. Like, you come back, you see one award, and then you're back off. Like, it's 3 hours long.
Yeah.
That's a long time to sit there
It is, and be
and
vested,
watch.
and I
Yeah.
also had not watched many of the movies, so but the one part that I did catch was when they did the, animated feature film and animated short film winners, and I think Goldie Hawn and Andrew Garfield were the ones presenting for that, which was cute as heck too, watching those 2 interact. Oh my god, so cute. But anyways, the winners of those, and they were both, I believe, foreign winners, it was just the most sweet and honest and genuine reaction to winning. God, it was like the purest form of just sheer like elation
Yeah.
that they had done it. And so to watch them come up and thank and do their acceptance speeches, like it just really touched your heart. The one, I think it was the animated short film. Anyways, they had not gotten their visas to come to the country until the day before. And I believe they actually landed in California like just literally hours before the Oscars started, and they won. And English was not their first language, but they just had a beautiful, eloquent little speech, and it was just touching, and it was just so nice to see just how pure that was. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Yeah, it was just really nice. So I'm really glad if that's the only part of the Oscars that I caught. That's the part that I caught because it was just really super nice to
It
see.
is
So
nice to see because you can just tell that they had no idea they were gonna win that,
no,
you
like,
know?
and hey, I'm sure some of these smaller little films and whatever or nominations, you're just excited to get a nomination nod.
Mhm.
And lastly, and especially with the animated feature film, because I believe it was up against, is it Inside Out 2?
Yeah.
Which is a really
There
big
was some
motion
big
picture
ones.
company,
They were
right?
yeah.
So for a little independent to win that, like, good on them. Like, it's just awesome. It just kind of gives hope to, all of those people that are, fighting to try and get their ideas made and seen.
Yeah.
It just gives you a little bit more hope, which is so nice.
It
So
is
nice.
it is, like, an inspiring
Yeah,
it's inspiring to see that.
it is. I liked it. Anyways, I really wish I had have paid attention more. I need to maybe put that on my
I should
2026
have paid
year
attention
list
more.
is to once the nominations come out to actually watch the films and stuff.
Yeah.
I know we talked about like maybe having a bet against it, but listen, I wasn't there this year,
Listen,
so
I'm in a busy time of my life, okay? Quite busy, so that yeah.
Ainsley only has weeks left of school and a whole whack of schoolwork to get done before
Yeah,
that
I
ends.
am in the most stressful period of probably my entire college career. Entire.
And
All
mom's laughing about it.
all boiling down to these next, like, 2, 3 weeks of my life. It's gonna be awful. You guys have probably noticed that some of our, like, posting kinda went downhill a bit. Listen,
It's okay.
I'm just one person, and I got priorities, and unfortunately, in the moment, it is not you guys.
Yeah. And I don't do anything other than just gab on this microphone,
She
so
just
I'm
shows
no
up and
help
talks.
whatsoever. And I'm like, okay, listen, priorities happen
Hey,
in life. Things happen in life. It's all
school is
good.
school.
School is school. So,
Yeah.
and that comes first. Absolutely. So, that's all right, Ainsley.
Yep.
I just hope that you're able to, get everything organized and finished and good luck in these next, and your mother's here for you if you need,
Oh, yay.
right?
I love that.
Um, although like I'm busy with my own social life, so don't
I
call.
call her and she's like, "I'm on my work phone." I'm like,
I'm on
"Oh,
the work
okay.
phone.
Whatever.
I'll talk later. And then I don't
Whatever
call
then."
her because
Yeah,
I'm
and
too
then
busy.
she said that to me a couple days ago. She's like, "Hey, I'll call you back." No, I never got a call back. I called her back hours later.
I didn't call her. Listen, Mama's got a social life now that some of my kids are out of the house. I got a social life. What can I say? We're kind of funneling into the end of Bonspiel season for curling, so I'm
Oh,
busy,
yes.
and we're like right into the heart of badminton. So I'm busy. I'm
She's
busy,
busy.
Ainsley.
She's
I
busy.
have a play that I'm going to.
Ooh,
So I'm looking forward to that. So I got stuff. I got stuff
you
going
got
on.
stuff to do.
Just saying. Okay.
Just saying.
Lodge Life Deep Dive. Turnover
Yes,
days.
the main event.
The main
Dun,
event.
dun,
So
dun.
for our viewers, what is a turnover day? What does it look like? Who does what? What's a turnover day?
Well, for us, a turnover day was when uh our guests, like we would have a group of guests going back to town to go home and a
Hmm.
new group of guests coming into camp.
Yes.
Most times it was like depending on who all was in camp, but it was a week long
Times.
trip for almost everyone. And so usually full camp would go out, full camp would come in, roughly. Like
Usually on
some days
Saturdays
there'd
though,
be less
on the
cabins,
weekend.
blah blah blah. But yeah, it was always a Saturday or a Sunday ordeal.
Yeah. And so generally everybody went out and everybody came back in. So my son and my
Yes.
husband were in charge of getting our guests to and from the lodge to the main town so that they could continue on their travels, and then picking up the new guests in town, like in town, and boating them back. So we were
Yeah.
42-mile boat ride from town to our lodge. So that took up the majority of the day, just getting all of our guests and all of their gear out, and then getting our new guests and their new gear back in. So that's what our boys did. And then Ains and I were generally in charge of cleaning the cabins, and getting
Yes.
them all ready, changing out all the linens and towels and all that fun stuff.
Wiping everything down. And
Yep, and then getting things, and then I also was in charge of getting fishing licenses and such organized for
yes.
when they actually got there.
And
So
roles switched up depending, like, if it was a bad weather day, then you would
yeah,
go with dad, and my
hmm
brother would stay and help me clean, and
hmm
everything
yeah.
it was a very universal day.
It really was. Yeah, and if it was something that my husband could just, work on, getting guests to and from the lodge, then my son stayed back and re-cleaned all of our fishing boats, got everything restocked with those, made sure that they were good to
Yeah.
go for when a guest got there, and then he would give them a rundown on, usage of the motor and all that fun stuff. So that was basically what it consisted of.
Yeah, it
Um,
was definitely a more stressful experience at this when I was really little. Like I can remember because when I was really little, we had 2 lodges. And so it
yes.
was
Oh,
it was Saturdays for both lodges that
I
everyone had to
forgot
go
about
out.
that.
So that's like 9 cabins of people having to leave. And we had the people who were at the other lodge, like our who used to own it, that were kind of just over there as a body. That gentleman would help. my dad at the time go back and forth, and
Mhm.
we had some other people, but I can remember you, like, cleaning our main lodge, and then the, 3 of us getting in the boat, and you'd have to take
Mhm.
us over and clean the 2nd lodge. And I can
Yep.
remember going over, because then I'm little, there was nothing to do over there for me, I just run around with pieces
Yep.
of wood, I was like, "Woo."
Just running around the lawn with pieces of wood. Oh my
Woo.
gosh. Look at me, mom. I'm running around with a piece of wood.
Actually, I just saw a photo, um, I think maybe when I was at grandma's house, like, when I went home to see you, she was showing me a photo album, and it was when I was really little, so we were at the 2nd lodge, and I had a croquet mallet in my hand, and I was
Aw,
like,
you're
"That's
just
where it
itty
all
bitty.
started." Anyways,
So cute.
that's off
Yeah,
topic.
so back and I kind of forgot about when we had both lodges at the same
Yeah,
time. One of them was an American plan, so I was actually cooking too. So the
and
mornings
usually
consisted
cleaning every day.
cleaning every day, new
Yeah,
towels to everybody every day, beds fully made, cabins cleaned, like just tidied, but changeover days. Yeah, that was crazy. You had to cook breakfast, see our guests off, then run around. First of all, you had to prep for supper,
mhm,
right? And then run around, clean all the cabins at the one lodge, throw you kids in a boat, go over to the other
yeah.
lodge, clean all of those, get back to the main lodge and start getting ready for suppers.
It was
Listen, we were
crazy, and at
young,
that time, like,
thought we could do it.
when we switched lodges, I was 8, so we were like, my brother and I
You were
were 8
young.
and under for that whole period of time, which would've been
Yeah, you
horrendous.
would have been, I think when we bought the second lodge, you guys would have been 2 and 4.
Yeah.
So there I am slugging a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old and still trying to get all this stuff done. That's why you have kids when you're young, and then you think, "I can do anything in the world," and then you do it, and then when you
Yes.
get older and wiser, you're like, "Why would I have done that?"
And then you
Um,
make your kids help you.
and then you make your kids yes, so then once you guys got old enough, you guys had some small responsibilities. I think Ainsley started out with,
I started
sweeping
with
the
well,
cabins,
I think originally I started with, like, the with outhouses
cans.
and the shower building
Oh,
in
the
terms
outhouses
of
in the shower building.
cleaning. Like, I would just do those because we had a shower, like, a communal shower
Yeah,
building
common shower
for
building.
everyone because there was no running water in any of the cabins.
No, that's
Um,
right.
so I think I started with, like, I would have to go and, like, sweep out the outhouses and wipe them down and put new toilet paper in, and then I also had to, like, wipe down the shower house, and then after
Mhm.
that, I got upgraded to, like, going into the cabins and sweeping and stuff like that.
Yes, I believe so. And Michael or our son was in charge of, cleaning the fish cleaning station, the fish
Yeah,
house, and getting all that stuff moved, as well as wiping out boats and getting those reorganized and ready to go. And, yeah, so it took a lot. It was a lot of cleaning. Like, listen, when you've
it
had a group of
was.
guys in there for 6, 7 days and they head out, whew, sometimes, let me tell you,
Yeah.
she was dirty. So what was your favorite part of turnover days?
My oh, goodness.
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know if
I
there's a
would have
favorite
thought you
part.
said snacks.
Oh, okay, I was gonna bring that up, but I didn't think about that. All our guests I know I've mentioned it before, but all our guests would leave all their food because 'cause they're usually flying, like, they would buy it to bring up with us or bring up with them, and so they'd leave it,
Yes.
which was beneficial to us because we didn't always get a grocery run in every week.
True.
Um, but
True.
yeah, we'd my brother and I would usually race to see who could find the best snacks in
Yeah,
the
that was always
cabins.
pretty fun.
Um,
And sometimes they'd leave you a little tip too, right? They'd
yeah,
leave you
that's true.
few American dollars or whatever, which was pretty exciting for you guys as
Yeah,
well.
it was really exciting, but
Yeah.
yeah, that'd be the best part. Otherwise, it wasn't fun.
No. My best part of it, what was my most favorite part when it was done? No, I'm
Yeah.
just joking. Um, yeah, you know what? I don't know if there's any good part. Because trust me, these people had been deep frying fish
Yep.
on a propane stove. So then trying to just get the stove cleaned up and get the kit. Sometimes we had to defrost these propane fridges. It was a lot. But you know what? Overall, it wasn't that bad. I think the
No.
part was nicest is that we had a really once we got going, we had a really good system, and
Yeah, you
that
had your tasks, I had my tasks,
yeah,
and they kinda, like, I would go in and kind of we kind of just depending it maybe my brother and I or you and I,
yep,
depending who got to the food first, we would take all the food out, and then
yep,
I was in charge of, like, after a few years of learning how to do everything, I was in charge of sweeping,
yep,
Windex. I don't know if I mopped or not. I don't think I mopped. I did sweeping Windex, and then I wiped down the surfaces
yep.
and did
Well,
all
you
the
did
linens
outhouses. Yeah, and you did
and
outhouses.
outhouses and stuff, but, like, for in the cabins. I don't know if I mopped because usually I would go in first and start things, and then when you came in and did, like, the
Yeah,
stove,
I did the deep cleaning.
you did all the deep cleaning, then
But
I'd
I think
be
I put
c
the
on my
beds
way
together
out.
too. I think you were in
No.
charge of towels and making sure they had enough towels and tea towels and dish towels and that, and I'm pretty sure I was the one that made the beds.
No, because at our second lodge, we just put a bottom sheet on because they brought all their own bedding.
True that.
So that was my job because I can remember putting pillowcases on all the time.
There Aw, you were in charge of pillowcases.
Yeah, I was in charge of pillowcases because
Pillowcases.
you would strip it and you'd put all the dirty laundry in a pillowcase. That's how
You
we
did.
collected our laundry.
We collected our
Um,
laundry.
so I would do that because then usually I'd be out of the cabin and into the next one, and then you would follow behind.
Coming in with the
So I'm
deep clean.
assuming maybe I mopped. I really have no idea. Maybe I went back
No, I think I
afterward.
mopped. I'm pretty sure I mopped because I feel like sometimes when you're first learning, I
When I was
kinda had to
first
do a
learning,
bit
my
of
sweeping was horrendous.
I had to do a bit of a resweep.
Although
Um,
the sweeping, I won't like not to make excuses for
it
myself,
wasn't
but
horrendous.
the the porch to all the cabins was plywood, which is it's
Plywood.
very hard to sweep. So
It is.
little me was like, nope. I quite often had
You
to
can
go back and
completely sweep you can
redo
completely sweep a
cabins.
porch, and then you can completely resweep it and have just as much dirt when
Yep,
it is a plywood floor. But hey, and
it is
the
satisfying.
cabins itself, they all were built exactly the same. They had 2 small bedrooms and then a common area. There was a big cook stove in the middle of it,
Mhm.
and then the porch housed the stove and the fridge.
Yes.
And then that way all the cooking was outside of the main building, so especially in the middle of summer, it didn't get hot in the main building, and it just kept all that mess out there in the screened-in porch. Um, so anyways, it was quite a bit. We had 5 cabins
Yes.
at the second lodge to do, and then we had the shower building. We had to do all the outhouses, and we also had, outside of every cabin, we had just a bin for, like, cans.
Cans,
So
yep.
any, like, cans, beer cans, pop cans, and then we had to sort those. So what was the worst part of cleaning on a turnover day?
The worst part for me was eventually at some point, it just became a thing where I had to help with fish guts. Why, I don't know. Because at the
Really?
end of every yeah, because when my brother would
Oh,
clean the
your brother
fish hut,
wrangled you into that.
he'd always tell me to come, and I'd be the one who'd have to hang on like, he would just drive the boat. I had to dump them. You think I could dump those? I was gagging away, and he'd be yelling at me, and I'm like, I can't do it. I don't know what you want from me, but I cannot do it." So between
Oh my
that
god.
and probably digging through the beer cans, that could get pretty gross
Yeah,
because
it's
there's beer
messy.
cans, pop cans, lots of people put garbage in there, like minnow tubs, and then it just
Yep.
the summer heat, like, it was just fermenting.
After a week of summer
Oh,
heat.
yeah,
Oh my
so
gosh.
that was rough, but I got to collect all the beer cans and then count those and get money for those, so that was
You
nice.
guys did. That was the
Um,
trade-off, right?
yeah, but that was there'd be some weekends though well, it'd be a good weekend if we didn't have to do full camp, and then if we did have to do full camp, it'd be a good weekend if we got to do it over 2 days because people weren't coming till, like, the next day
Yes.
or weren't coming at all type thing.
Yeah.
But there were a few times where me and my brother had to clean. And that
There
could get
was.
interesting.
We had a couple of weather
That was an interesting
days,
time.
and the one weather day, I mean, I don't wanna sound like a bad parent, but how old were you guys? 10 and 12, I wanna say?
Probably, or
I think
11,
so.
13,
It
something
was
like
a
that.
horrific weather day, and you're traveling 42 miles by boat and with, a fully loaded couple thousand pounds of gear and people on it.
Yeah.
So my husband decided to take the guests in, and it was rough. They were for sure 5-foot waves that you're trying to navigate through. And in the middle of the biggest lake that we had to travel through, one of our boats broke down. So then, and that was my husband's. I had to turn around, fully weighted, and not capsize and
Yeah.
go back to tie on to the back of his boat. And then he jumped in, and then we kind of shunted the 2 boats into a small little bay. We tied off the broken boat. I stayed there, and my husband proceeded to come and go back through this lake and one more, and get our guests in. I don't think our guests realized just how serious the situation was
Yeah,
because
like, this
it
isn't like
was
an
scary.
over exaggerated thing, like, this very
No.
rarely happened to us, but this was definitely one of the worst
Yeah.
days that had ever been out there.
Unbelievable wins and just trying to navigate and, like, to the point where, like, you'd come over that wave, and when you came down, like, I was surprised that the boat didn't split in half. It was nuts. I actually was somewhat traumatized for a while after that. I can remember, I think it was, so we ended up having to stay overnight in town because the weather was so bad. Now my
Yes.
kids, they were fine. They were in a fully stocked, fully prepared camp.
Oh, yeah,
We could
we were knew exactly
we could
what we had
fly
to do.
in at any point to get them if we needed. They had a sat phone, they had hydro, they
We
were
had
fine.
boats, we knew how to use the boats.
Well, you wouldn't have been taking them that day, but you
No,
did
not
have
that day.
boats.
But, yeah,
So they were completely fine to stay overnight. And trust me, we were up by 4 o'clock the next morning, and I think we were back into camp by 6 a.m.
yeah.
Because my husband was able to kind of limp this other boat in and get whatever fixed. I don't want to say it was a spun out prop, but I can't remember. Anyways, it was pretty grave weather conditions. And I can remember the next week, I think I had to go to town maybe to do a grocery run or something like that. And it was a calm, flat, beautiful day out. And on the way back, I think there was just a little bit of a ripple on the water. And I can remember as soon as I hit that lake,
Mhm.
I just started into hysterical crying. And I think it just triggered something. And I was like, no, I got to get back out on this boat. I got to get back out on this lake. I need to
Yeah.
overcome this,
I mean,
which I did.
it's just like the emotions hit you because, like, obviously you're with guests when it's happening. Like, you can't freak
Oh,
out.
no,
You have to be calm for
no.
them. But it was I can remember that day too. Like, it was well, any day I had to clean with my brother was an interesting day.
How'd that
We
go,
didn't
Amy?
it was well, listen, there was a lot of yelling, a lot of yelling. Because
Maybe your
the
day was
whole
worse than my day.
reasoning was that, like, he was told, like, he had to listen to me, like, I would tell
Yep.
him what to do because essentially
Mhm.
I took over mom's jobs in the
Yep.
cabins and he took over mine. And then we helped each other out with all the other stuff. But that was quite difficult.
And if you didn't do a good enough job, you had to redo it.
Yeah,
So
and so
Ainsley
there
was
was a lot
inspecting.
of arguing going on, a lot
Yep.
of back and forth, and I was like, "Listen, like, it was." Oh, I can just remember screaming at him, like, "Come on, like, come on." But that day in particular was awful. Like, I can remember,
Oh,
like, I already don't like, I still to this day do not like any high winds or storms, and I think it's
yeah,
because at the lodge, just it's like it's
it's
not something you
nerve-wracking.
want to have happen because then everyone's panicking about boats. Like, are the boats
Mhm.
tied up nicely? And so it's just always been ingrained in me.
Mhm.
And so I can remember
Yes.
that day, like, mom and dad aren't there, and I'm like, the boats, like the boats were tied and the boats were fine. But I remember I was like, the boats, the boats.
The
But
boats,
it
the
was like such a
boats.
weird day. Like, it was just dark all day.
Yeah.
We cleaned, and I remember we were just inside, and I think for a while we weren't sure what was going on, like, because
Yeah. It
you
took us
guys were
so
it
much
took you
extra
guys so
time.
long to get there, and so we weren't really sure, like, we hadn't heard anything, so because I know we had the generator on, so we had the phone on, like,
Yep.
the phone stayed on, like, our power stayed on all night, I think,
Mhm. I
because
think
we it
so.
was just us up there, and eventually you guys called us like, "Hey, like, we're staying overnight," and we're like, "Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine," like, we were
I'm
like, "Oh,
pretty
this is
sure your
great now,
dad
we can
was.
watch TV, woohoo."
Oh my god. Yeah, we could just binge watch all day long. I'm pretty sure your dad was up by 3 a.m. the next day, the next morning, went, "Okay, let's go. We gotta get going."
Yeah.
And you guys were completely fine.
Yeah,
But
everything
yeah, it
was
was
fine at the lodge, but it was just it was, like, one of those things that, like,
stressful.
even like, thankfully nothing serious happened, but you just still
Yes.
never expect that to happen,
Mhm.
but yeah, they're like,
It
cause
was
it's a
crazy.
on those days, like, on a turnover day, like, you have to go no matter the weather, cause
You
those
do.
guests have flights to get on, you have guests coming
Mhm.
in,
Mhm.
you can't afford to just push it back a day because it buggers up the entire
Everything.
summer,
Everything.
essentially.
It
So,
does.
it was always stressful, it was interesting.
Good times. Now, do you
Great
remember when you
times.
guys were fully into school? So we would
Oh,
pull the kids
yes.
out at the beginning of May, and we wouldn't go back in until after Thanksgiving, when the kids were in pre-kindergarten, and kindergarten. I think it was grade 1 when you were finally in full days that we actually kept you guys in school for the proper duration of
Maybe.
school.
Maybe not, because I can remember my school had, like, a fun day, and I can remember for a few years I missed that, so it might have been grade
Mm,
1 as well.
could have
Because
been grade 1.
I remember when I finally went, I was like, "Oh, this is fun. It's fun day."
Right. So we were fortunate that we had family that lived just in the next town. So they were the ones that kind of would take care of Ainsley and her brother for
Well,
those
I
during
even
the
stayed
week.
with, like, our neighbors one time, like,
Yep,
friends of ours. I
we did.
remember I've
Yep.
stayed with lots of people before.
But then it got to the point where I had a job, so I had to be in Monday to Friday too. So then changeover weekends became quite
Oh,
different. As soon as I was done work, my son, and he was probably what, in grade 5,
yeah.
maybe grade 4.
4 or
Anyways, he's
5.
still quite young, but he would have the boat packed and ready to go, which we generally had new linens that we had washed and dried all week long, and any supplies that we needed,
Yeah.
gas or water. We generally went and got jerry cans of gas. We got that figured out the night before. He had the boat completely ready to go. So as soon as I was done work, we jumped into the boat and we booted her to the lodge um,
Friday
on
night.
Friday night so
From
that we could settle up with our guests, figure out our game plan for the next day for changeover day and all that fun stuff. The problem with changeover day, especially on weekends where my kids were only there on the weekend, is that Saturday, their dad is gone all day
Yeah,
long.
because he like, once we were in school, like, full time and mom was working, he would have to go up in May by himself because
Yes.
we'd guest in, so he'd be up there for those, like, 2 months before and after summer by
Yeah.
himself. So the only time we got to see him was on those weekends.
Weekends. And on Saturdays, he was generally in a boat all day long,
Yeah.
bringing guests to and from the lodge. So, and then on Saturday night, once what all of our guests were in, then he would have to go through with them and kind of show them how to run the propane
Yeah.
stove. And, there was things, housekeeping things that had to be done. How, just a rundown on how the motors work, as well as getting licenses, fishing licenses and things like that, organized and made up and things like that. So sometimes it wasn't until after supper when your dad was available to kind of be a dad,
Yeah.
which is just the nature of the beast. So then it got to the point where instead of leaving on Sundays to go back to
Because
town,
even, like, well, some Sundays we would, but there were quite a few Sundays where he would also have to go back and forth to town to get guests.
yeah,
Like, sometimes guests didn't come till Sunday.
true.
So, especially on those days is when we would wait until Monday.
Yeah, so became a lot of times where we would stay all day Sunday so that we could spend some good quality time with dad. And then on Sundays, we would get up and we would be on the
Mondays.
water
Mondays.
by or on Mondays, we would be on the water by what, 5:30 in the morning?
Yeah.
And we also had to go back no matter what the weather was yet
Yep.
again because I worked and the kids had school. I
Yeah,
can
because
remember some
sometimes
days.
sometimes a Sunday'd be bad, so we would wait till a Monday.
Yeah,
Um, so that was kinda nice to know you had that extra day, but if Monday was bad, then Monday was bad and you were going.
Monday was bad, man. So my kids, bless their hearts, I can remember so many Monday mornings at 5:30 in the morning, and we are headed out, and they're in like full floater suits. It's
Mhm.
pouring rain. We are, facing some nasty winds, and we have all the garbage. Like we used to
Oh,
haul all of our
all the
garbage out
garbage.
and take it to the dump. So the whole front of it, we'd have hundreds of pounds of garbage. And so we've got it all loaded in there, empty jerry cans, any type of thing that had to go back. And we are booting it through these 42 miles of
Yep.
of
It was about
lake.
an hour to an hour and a half boat ride,
Yeah. And
somewhere
my
in there.
kids never once complained. Never once. Bless your hearts. I am just so appreciative of you two in those times. Never once complained. In the most horrific like weather conditions, just cold, rainy, sleety, just
I don't think
ridiculous
we
weather.
ever complained, like, even if we didn't have to go to school. Like, if we had to go back and forth to town, then we had to go back and forth to
Yeah.
town. There was no reason to complain because there was no other
Yeah.
option.
And I appreciate that. And then we would get to town, and it's
We
not
had to
that we
go
could
do the
go,
garbage
we had to go do the garbage. So
and
then we
then
had to
go to
load it all in a
school.
truck. Put it in the truck, then we had to drive it to the town dump, drop it off, come home, get changed, get
Yeah.
sorted, and be to school for 8:30 in the morning before I
It
had to go to
was
work.
hectic because we couldn't leave the garbage or else the ravens would get into it, and
And the bears,
yeah, so it was
good times.
quite. I was actually just talking to someone was talking about, like, "Oh, like, if you had to boat to school, blah, blah," and I was like, "Oh, I've had to do that before, like, right to the school."
Yeah,
I was like, "No, no, like, I went to my like, boated to a dock first." I was like, "But
yeah.
I've had to do that." They're like, "Whoa, like, that's so crazy." I was like, "Yeah," I was like, "I wouldn't recommend it, but it
You just
was what
wild
it was."
frontier people, you. My little wild
But yeah,
frontier kids.
that was always a long
Yeah,
morning. That was always a long day of
it
doing
was a
that
long
because then you
day.
come home and you haven't even unpacked yet of anything, and
Nope. Like everything's
yeah,
still, yeah, it's just all thrown together. So, but anyways, we made it work and it did
we
work.
did.
It worked for a lot of years.
Yep, because we did that
Um,
from May long to the end of June and then in
yep,
September as well.
yep, we did
Because
that.
even,
Yeah.
we had to go, we had to mom and I had to be there to clean cabins.
Hmm.
My brother had to be there to help my dad, so there was
Yeah.
no option of like, "Oh, we're not gonna go this weekend, he can do it." Like, we had
Yeah.
to be there
Nope.
every weekend.
And
So,
you guys did it with no complaints. And
yeah,
like kudos to you too, because man, for two kids, young kids like that,
yeah.
and just getting in there and getting done what needed to be done. Mind you, that was kind of the mindset and the education that you got living there too.
Yeah.
But still, like, never complained, just, put your head down, got what needed to be done. Realizing that you're front of house too. So you
Oh, yeah.
couldn't, there wasn't infighting in front of guests,
No.
or there wasn't like temper tantrums, or, fighting with your mom and dad in front of guests.
And,
Not
like,
that you really.
when I think back on it, like, obviously, my brother and I argue all the time, but like, in the summer, I feel like we definitely probably didn't argue as much as we would at home, like, during the winter.
Oh, okay.
I
Huh.
don't know, I mean, I can't remember that well, but, like, which is weird, especially considering we're literally stuck with each other, but
Yeah.
maybe it was just because we knew we couldn't and blah, 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 but
Yeah.
I remember, like, very few fights, like, actually being at the lodge.
Well, I'm happy to hear that. That's for sure.
Yeah. Woohoo.
Very happy to hear that. Yeah, so that's just a little look into what a changeover weekend kind of
Yeah.
looked like for us. It wasn't pretty, it wasn't
Nope.
fancy, it was the good, the bad, the ugly, and but it got done every
Yep.
weekend for
Exactly.
weeks and weeks and weeks. And I mean, it wasn't horrible, but it's turned you two into the fine,
Yeah, I mean,
upstanding people
I
that
will
you are.
always say I would never change, like, how I grew up. Like,
Aw,
I do know I missed out on a lot of, like,
yeah,
stereotypical, like, childhood things, but
yeah.
I would never wanna go back and do it differently.
That's awesome, because it was just a magical, when you think about it overall, it was just a magical time
Yeah.
in our lives, which we're really lucky to have had,
Yeah.
that's for sure. I love that. Well,
Yeah.
that was a nice little stroll down memory lane yet again,
It
Ainsley. I really
was.
like these lodge life deep dives. It's kind of fun to think back, and, like, literally as we're talking, I can literally see it,
I can see it too. I
what I'm
can see
it's, like,
exactly
right here.
I can picture
It's
myself
crazy.
pulling up to a cabin with the quad with 2 milk crates full of towels and sheets and, like, carrying
Yes.
them in and carrying my little bucket of cleaning supplies in. Like, I can picture it all, like, it's crazy.
Right? It just brings you back to, like, it was, like, last
Yeah.
weekend. That's
Putting
what it
on the
feels
big
like.
yellow rubber gloves to dig through the blue barrels of cans and
Oh
oh,
my
I can
gosh.
picture it all. It's
I
crazy.
can picture Ainsley dry heaving as she's doing
Oh,
it.
yeah, definitely.
Oh, good times. Awesome. Well, listen, that was really nice to kind of talk about. So, really hope that you guys enjoyed hearing a little bit more about our lodge
Yeah.
life and kind of how that all plays out. We'll definitely have some more and talk about lots of other things. I know we're going to talk about all the different pests, the bears, the
Yep.
bats, and the mice that we had to deal with, and there's a million other
There's so
stories.
many things to talk about, yeah.
God, I wish I had written them down way back when. I could have like a series of books by now of just
I
lodge life
almost
stuff.
wish that we were in doing that during this, like, era because, like, then we could, we could be, like, one of those, like,
Yeah.
YouTuber families, you know?
Right?
Like, that'd be pretty cool, like, to,
It
like,
would be.
document that kinda
Yep.
lifestyle. Like, not that we couldn't have then, but it just that type of thing wasn't as big of a deal then, you know?
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. Yeah, it would
But,
have been really
yeah.
cool. Awesome.
Anywho,
All right. Well, we're going to sign off. Thank you for joining
yes.
us for yet another Second Saturday.
Make sure you like and subscribe and hit the notification
Do
bell.
it. Do it.
Do
And
it.
we hope you enjoy your Sunday, and we
Yes.
will see you next Sunday.
Bye.
Toodles.